What's the best marketing launch you've seen lately and why? And I'm going to start that with Martin, because you see so many. So Martin, perhaps what's your view?
So, okay, I was going to say make America great again, but it's Christmas. Let's keep it light. So I'm going to start with Brexit instead. It is genuinely probably my favorite launch of the year is the New European, the newspaper that came out just after Brexit. So I don't know about you guys, but the day after Brexit was just an incredible shock to a lot of people in my middle class bubble who were just like, it was a wail of existential despair. And anybody who looked across social media would have felt the same thing. But one publisher saw an opportunity and they went and produced a newspaper purely for that 48%. And I mean, you think about that, newspapers, everybody thinks that industry is dying. There's already been a newspaper launched and failed this year in New Day. To actually go out the day after Brexit and say, we're going to do they called it a pop-up newspaper, and they launched it. And what's interesting is, so our research says that 80% of clients are saying that launches are getting shorter and shorter from idea to conception, but they're talking in terms of months. New European was conceived, executed, and printed in 9 days. It was insane, and it is still going. It's actually incredibly successful, and now with the election of Trump, it's broadening its horizons to not just being about Brexit, but about globalization versus nationalism. It's a brand new newspaper with a readership, but they saw the opportunity and then created a product. They didn't have a product and just go, right, who can we sell it to? They saw it, they pounced it, and they were confident and brave, and I really respect that.
What do you think, Mark?
I think there's lots of launches I like. I think for me, I'm going to be a bit more generic about it. I think the launches I tend to like are less of the big bang, and I think much longer, slower burn launch campaigns are the ones that really sort of make me to stand up and take notice, I suppose. I like brands that look at interaction and engagement, particularly through social channels. I think confectionery do that well. I think snacks do that well, and I think film and music and entertainment do that well, mainly because they've got that content they can engage people with. So they're the type of launches I think that make me look at and think, oh, wish I could do that. So yeah, National Trust is very different. We'll come on to that in a minute.
Neil?
I think there's two that really spring to mind. Starbucks, some of the changes they've been through recently, tough times, whether you're a Starbucks lover or hater. And BMW, I think from an internal point of view, I really like what BMW are doing right now, which is completely shifting their proposition with their teams to be embracing a much younger profile of their workforce. They're changing the way they do things to give their teams far more tools to launch products and let go a little bit more, which is probably quite hard culturally for a brand like BMW to do. So they're sort of preparing lots of little social tools for teams to get out there and share and talk about their products. They're doing a lot more immersive experiences with their teams to help really have genuine passion for the products that they're launching. So they're attracting a different type of person to work for them, but they're also just being quite creative about the way they're engaging teams. So, and Starbucks actually created a whole store and brought people to it to try to bring that whole new brand experience to life, and they have to change, you know. So I really love what they've done there as well. So I think immersive experiences.
Now, Lee, I'm just going to ask you a two-part question, because if you could answer that, but also then perhaps share with the audience how your marketing has changed over the last 5 years in terms of, given the changes that have been going on.
Sure, yeah. So in terms of what stood out for me, what I was impressed by was Burberry's campaign around London Fashion Week. They kind of broke a load of legacies. I thought it was smart the way they decided to challenge the norm. Rather, you know, it was the whole see now, buy now campaign. So they said rather than affecting a two-season campaign, they put their entire collection out on the day of their fashion show, where they hired this amazing space called, I think it was called Maker's Yard or whatever in Soho. They worked with all these kind of artisan creators and had a lasting site that you could visit throughout the course of Fashion Week and interact with the products and hear about the history of Burberry, which I thought was very smart, where tradition, very British, was brought to life and very engaging from a social perspective. But interesting, I just thought it was a very strong commercial play to say, Why have a fashion show and create a launch moment and then you can't buy those products for 6 months? You could buy it via Facebook Messenger there and then as the garments were being worn, which I thought was just incredible in terms of the level of engagement. And in terms of how we've changed, there's a few faces in the audience that I recognise that are in the entertainment sector as well that will, I'm sure, echo this. But obviously digital has been the great disruptor for so many businesses, and never more so than with film. And I think you said it, you know, social is in entertainment products, because we naturally have content, is an incredible, it creates an incredible opportunity for us. So our change is mainly driven by the mix, is driven much more digital. 5 years ago it was, let's do all the norm and then what should we do on digital? Now it's digital first every time. And so I just think we're orienting ourselves to a place where the platforms now are so agile and immediacy is so important, and you can tell a story on these platforms. And obviously when we work in storytelling, it's rich for, the pickings are rich, but how you then manage that to tell the right story for a consumer discreetly, not in a broadcast way, in a narrowcast way, is really been the biggest change that we have seen and we're adopting, and I can see it only getting more and more so.